From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Naira Ahmed. The war in Iran has entered its 10th day and could be up for debate in the House of Commons in Ottawa this evening.
Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon says the government's proposed the debate on the hostilities in Iran and the effects for Canadians abroad. It follows a weekend meeting of ministers discussing the issue. A readout from the Prime Minister's office says Mark Carney convened the Incident Response Group Sunday to discuss the ongoing Iran hostilities. A separate PMO readout says Carney discussed the Middle East hostilities with U.S. President Donald Trump Sunday afternoon. That says they also discussed the economy and trade, but did not provide details, other than to say the two leaders agreed to remain in close contact. Jason White, the Canadian Press.
Back and forth strikes continue from both Israel and Iran in the Middle East. This morning, Iran launched drones attacking a vast Saudi oil field, while 32 people, including children, were injured in Iranian strikes in Bahrain. The UAE is reporting another strike against its capital, Abu Dhabi, urging people to remain in safe locations. Israel says it has carried out airstrikes in Beirut and central Iran, as it also comes under fire in both northern and southern parts of the country by Iranian missiles. Israel's attacking Iran and targeting Hezbollah in neighboring Lebanon, where authorities say over 500,000 people have been displaced and over 300 killed. In Israel, 11 people have died since the war began, as multiple alerts continue to sound per day across the country, warning of incoming projectiles, almost all of which are intercepted. Over the weekend, Canadians arriving home from Dubai expressed frustration with the war and evacuations, calling the experience traumatizing. Hundreds more Canadians are expected to fly out of the region in the coming days after the federal government block-booked hundreds of seats on outgoing flights. Back at home, 3 by-elections are happening on April 13th in Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the votes will be cast in the Toronto area ridings of Scarborough Southwest and University Rosedale, and in the Quebec riding of Terrebonne. The Liberals sit 3 seats short of a majority government. And diversity, equity, and inclusion advocates are raising concerns about how job cuts will affect the demographics of Canada's public service, something the Treasury Board of Canada's Secretariat says it's not tracking.
Departments and agencies across the public service have started notifying staff of coming job cuts as the government looks to find cost savings. Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat spokesperson Barb Cooperis says the office does not collect information centrally of the impact of workforce adjustment on employment equity designated groups. Equity groups include women, Indigenous people, people with disabilities, and members of visible minorities. Cooperis says heads of departments are responsible for managing their workforces and that they'll continue to pay close attention to representation and their obligations under the Employment Equity Act. John Kennedy, the Canadian Press.
This is the Canadian Press. In sports, there are 5 games in the NHL today, including one in Vancouver, where the last-place Canucks host the Ottawa Senators. The Sens have won 2 in a row and 3 of their last 4 as they pursue a playoff berth. Elsewhere, the Calgary Flames visit the Washington Capitals, who have lost 3 in a row. Canada will have a day off at the World Baseball Classic before facing unbeaten host Puerto Rico tomorrow in San Juan. Canada has a 1-1 record in Pool A. Gabriela Dabrowski of Ottawa and her women's doubles partner Luisa Stefani of Brazil will play 2 Americans tonight at the Indian Wells Open tennis tourney. Last night, Felix Auger-Aliassime beat fellow Canadian Gabriel Diallo in a men's singles match that took nearly 2.5 hours to complete. And in the NBA, the Raptors are off today after a 122-92 win over the visiting Dallas Mavericks last night. From the Canadian Press, I'm Naira Ahmed.